Hey everybody, welcome to Monday. This is going to be a tough video for me to make because I have to avoid breaking some YouTube rules or stepping on YouTube's monetization policies. So there's some details of this stuff I can't say on YouTube on pain of demonetization. So some of this might get a little vague. I apologize in advance. I might have to start doing these sorts of videos Patreon only, just because, this is kind of silly that we can't provide proper context because YouTube goes, nope, 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 nope. So, if you're interested in supporting this sort of thing and you'd prefer it without the mush mouth, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. Again, I am not being vague because I want to be. I am being vague because I have to be. This is really ironic because right after I talked about you guys, maybe I'll do some men's oriented content. It has to do with gaming. A lot of the stereotypes about a particular type of guy, there's a lot of stereotypes involving gamers. There's a lot of stereotypes about certain types of guys who play games. This is a good fit. And then over the weekend, there was a dust up, between, I'm not going to get into it, but there was a fight. Mean names were said all around. People escalated the mean names into more and more ridiculous mean names. I don't know if you can notice the disdain I have for this whole thing, but two members of parliament, for you Americans, that's Canada's version of our Congress. Two members of Congress, Canada, members of parliament, got involved. And one accused one of the podcasts on the network that the Broken Clock podcast is on. They accused a podcast called Mensplaining, which is our men's issues podcast, of being middle-aged incel culture. I wish I was kidding. Imagine if your local congressperson or your local member of parliament made that accusation clearly without even listening to the podcast. If I shouldn't identify them because nobody wants trouble here. Everybody wants us to go away. But I want to talk about the motivations behind this stuff. Because to me, this is the sort of thing, this is the sort of issue that we can get some common ground on between those interested in men's issues and those interested in women's issues or, hashtag feminism. That should be good. Except there's too many people muddying the waters with this postmodernist bastardization of postmodernism that words can mean anything we want them to mean. They don't have inherent meanings, right? And I was interested to learn that the term incel doesn't allegedly mean the same thing to other people as it means to me, though I am about to argue that all the definitions essentially mean the same thing, except the worst one, which makes this whole thing even... I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. But it's so ridiculous that I do find it vaguely amusing if it wasn't so damn serious, because a representative of government is involved, okay? An elected person went to somebody and called them an incel over a stupid slap fight. Now, why do I seem so about this? Well, as of this year, there is a case before the courts where someone is facing a terrorism charge because of an incel affiliation. So right now in Canada, that is a very heavy accusation. And worse, the guy who got called an incel and therefore a potential form of terrorist was a brown dude. I wish I was making this up. And again, I am not naming names here. No one can claim I defame them, even though I think that in itself is kind of defamatory and is inappropriate behavior for someone in government. It just is. There's a higher standard there. People on, private citizens can be, shitlords all they want. If you've been elected to office, you should behave better than that, in my opinion. There's a reason I'll probably never get elected for office. I mean, all this content, just they'd mine it for anything that will make them look bad. So we'll see if this guy's Twitter feed comes back to haunt him in the next election, wherever that may be. There's saber rattling now, but some parties are just too broke to go to an election. So we'll see. But let's talk about this. It's okay when we do it, insulting of men in this regard. Because most people watching this channel, I'm going to make a bit of an assumption here. I assume most people watching this channel, because of its content, know that, gendered insults like thought or slut or whore, hoe, any of that stuff, those aren't okay, right? Because you're attacking a woman based on her sexual activity. It's slut shaming, right? We have more of a difference of opinion on the word bitch. And, we talk about this because I think it's worth talking about. I don't have the same view on whether it's okay to use that word as other people do. I personally think it's a very lazy insult, but that's not one of those ones that you see it on TV, you hear it, okay, you hear these other words on TV too, but you know what I mean? Like, we generally agree you should not insult a woman based on how much sex she does or does not have. Well, inherent to the term incel is what it's a short form of, involuntarily celibate, right? Like, that's what it means. That's what people who describe themselves as incels, that's where it comes from. Involuntary celibate. So it's undeniable that the insult is rooted in a man not choosing to be celibate, but wanting sex and not being able to get laid. Pretty cut and dry. And yet, when I talked about this on Twitter, some people are like, no, that's not what it means. It means people who are misogynists and hateful of women and losers who have a repellent personality, and that's why they think they can't get sex. And we're back to the root of it not being able to get sex. That is what defines an incel as a specific thing, as opposed to just your run-of-the-mill, far too common, hostile misogynist, okay? Again, central to the term is a lack of sexual activity. Again, if it's not okay to insult a woman based on how much sex she does or doesn't have, equality dictates it's not okay to insult a man that way. Fair, right? And yet, people throw around this word in denial about what they're perpetuating. And I admit, this is my personal bias here. It drives me extra crazy when I see women saying it. If you go on my Twitter, you will find me. I am going to cop to this now, ironically calling people that. The guy gave me a hard time and I jokingly said, okay, incel, or something like that. So I am not claiming I have never done this. I try not to do it anymore. Because I have come to the determination it's not harmless, that it does contribute to a cycle of, what some people call toxic masculinity. It certainly contributes to a very real artificial binary separation of gender roles. let's face it, the two insult states are incompatible, right? If guys are supposed to go out there and have all this sex, but women are insulted for having all this sex, well, there's a lot of frustrated or taken advantage of people out there, right? Like, you've set up two gender role expectations of sexual proclivity that are incompatible, right? Where are guys getting all this sex from if women are shamed for participating in all that sex? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of a broken formula, isn't it? Now, some people could say from other guys, but let's face it, these are heteronormative gender binary stereotypes, okay? And that's why it's not okay. Like, it's really interesting. I'm going to link to a paper in the description box if you want to read it. It's one I could find free. It's a bit wordy, but it's actually a longitudinal study of guys who were college students who were not incarcerated, who were willing to admit that they committed sexual assault. I was like, whoa, huh? Whoa, you admit to that? Yikes. But I guess it's good, because one of the things they found is that there were sort of, well, read the paper, but, you know, one of the things they found is that guys, obviously, like, hostile attitudes towards women, were, you know, their correlation, they saw it is predictive. They were willing to call it predictive in this study, of sexual assault. But the other marker they found was promiscuity. That if you have more encounters with more, you know, different partners, good language, you're more likely to commit something that's non-consensual. Interesting. And so this idea that guys should just go out and get sex is, and traditional gender roles play a part in the likelihood of, and that is one of them, right? Again, read the paper if you're interested. Don't take my word for it. But what this means is that anything that perpetuates these attitudes, these men should be having tons of sex and women should be having very little sex. How does that work? Don't know. But this is contributing to the campus sexual assault problem. It is, because people come in with these attitudes and people come in with these pressures, and everybody over, you know, the age of 20 knows, you know, legally you're an adult at 18. They can put you in the army and you can vote, but you're not really an adult. You're this bundle of stuff. You're a proto-adult, right? And we really do have to stop this stuff. We do have to stop this together. And it's not going to stop if not just men are being jerks to other men and, you know, creating this stupid competitive behavior, but also women are contributing. You know, I had women on Twitter defending, calling guys incels because, oh, they're bad people, so it's okay. And I'm like, how do you know from, you know, a 240 character exchange whether you can diagnose incel, right? Like, how do you know that? Unless they've got like incel on their profile, or they've got something that's like, you know, but that's not usually how it goes. It's often some guy says something awkward, or not even, just some guy says something that's misconstrued and they get this label slapped on. I was called a femcel over a video game. Over Mortal Kombat 11. A guy from the Young Turks called me a femcel. It's ridiculous. Like, what does that have to do with the issue at hand? 1 minute he was saying I was a racist, you know, then I'm a white feminist. I don't think he actually went so far as to call me a racist. He hedged it. He called me a white feminist, so he invoked my race. But then he called me a femcel. And like, What? Like, he... that came out of nowhere. That escalated quickly. And did he ever apologize? No. Did his bosses ever make him apologize? No. And that really sets up this paradigm of it's okay when we do it. And guess what? It's not. You can't be perpetuating these toxic frameworks and call yourself a progressive. You're just not a progressive if you're perpetuating regressive social norms. It's just not a thing. And what happens when there's these expectations of men and these expectations of women, yeah, there's a ton of pressure on guys. But we get this whole jumble of knock-on effects. If we're going to be traditional about this part of masculinity and femininity, then what about these other parts? Like, where does it stop? Where does the traditionalism stop? There are plenty of people out there who, I'm not going to go there. But you get what I'm saying? Like, if you engage in any forced traditionalism at all, anywhere you stop is an arbitrary line. And some people have personal comfort more than others. And you know what? That's okay. If you're choosing to live a certain way, just pulling some examples, out of my bum here, women who choose to be stay-at-home moms. That's a valid choice, as long as it's choice, right? I know a few stay-at-home moms who've done it, either because they have a special needs kid, especially now in COVID. Somebody has to teach them. Somebody has to look after them, or because it was just the daycare costs would have been more than what she'd make on a job. I know at least one person who is a stay-at-home mom because she'd just be working for daycare with like a little bit left over at the end. And she's like, why do that? Like, why pay for someone else to raise my kid if I don't find it fulfilling work and I got nothing else? I have not much more money on top of that at the end of the day. Logical, valid choice. But she's not forced. I mean, some people would say, I wish I could earn better pay. If I could earn better pay, okay, it would be worth it. But that's a choice they made based on finances, right? It's different to say, if you're not a stay-at-home mom, you're harming your children, right? Or if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're setting a bad example, or all these stupid shaming tactics that happen, right? You know what I'm saying? Now, similarly, these stereotypes that guys are mocked if they stay home with their kids. I've talked to some guys who were stay-at-home dads temporarily, or it became a lifestyle for them, and they took a lot of crap, not just from other guys, other women who strangely thought it was creepy, or that meant he was just a deadbeat and unemployable. Why the double standard? This is the problem. This puts more pressure on women in the home, which means women are getting extra super pressure balancing work and home if they do work, we do work full time. And it's really putting guys in a box too, right? Like, guys don't feel like they can prioritize their family when they have a job, because they'll get daddy tracked, right? Which is, you're not serious about your career. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Well-rounded employees make better employees. Employees who come to work caring about the world in some way. Those are the people you want. And this is one of the things, again, I think that we can all do together. We can make work less toxic. But the only way to make work less toxic is to take the machismo out of this stuff, to stop making it seem like you're tough if you work 80-hour weeks. As somebody who does that too often, you're not tough, you're stupid. I'm looking at myself when I say I am not tough. I am not a more devoted employee because I work 80-hour weeks. I'm stupid. I have too many balls in the air. I take on too much. Part of it is to just make enough income, but it's not healthy. It's bad for you. That 40 hours was set, for a reason. That's a healthy amount of work. I'm doing double that. Welcome to fucking tech. But we have to stop creating lifestyles that are killing us, right? We have to stop creating paradigms that get women in college harmed and, guys in other settings harmed, and too many guys not being able to fulfill the life path that's right for them because they don't feel like they have the social license to put being a dad over, like, making that their most important role. And then we go back to this thing about this ridiculous false idea of a lot of sex makes you a man, or sex in general makes you a man. It doesn't. Like, it really doesn't. Nobody over a certain maturity level finds it impressive when a guy is out with a different woman every week. Some of us even think it's kind of pathetic when it's, the Tinder grind, or the grinder tind. That was a joke. And I said that is our perception. I am not slut shaming anyone here, okay? But you know when somebody's doing it because they happen to have a high sex drive, and they're doing it because it's an ego thing. They are trying to prove something by this revolving door of women, men, both, and beyond. Let's face it, though. The people who are doing that for show, they're not trans friendly, right? Like, these are the same sort of people who have traditional ideas about gender, and so dating a trans person would not be high status enough in their minds, because a whole laundry list of ists, right? A laundry list of obias, right? And please, no one overgeneralize what I'm saying. What I'm talking about here are constructs, are social things, not singling anybody out, not saying, oh, you are definitely this if this sounds even remotely familiar to you. That's not what this is. This is talking about why it's really very important that we don't assign value to human beings based on sexual proclivities. There are some people out there who do have naturally high sex drives, and they shouldn't be shamed for that. But there are people that don't. There are people who have romantic feelings towards others. They don't necessarily need to make that sexual, and so on and so forth. There's a whole spectrum of humanity. And why are we creating a hierarchy based on that? Let people do what feels right for them. Personally, I think if you stop and you slow down and you actually get to know people instead of this bedroom whack-a-mole, that's quite an image, isn't it? It's more fulfilling than a purely physical transactional thing. Let's face it, we can't say that's traditional, because it's not. Because tradition was straight up, no sex before marriage, and leapt from that to the whole free love thing with the advent of the birth control pill. We never had any happy medium there. Like it did bling, 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 bling. These are things we can solve. These are things we can make an agreement with each other to not mock each other along these terms. No matter what you think incel means, whether you actually think incels are terrorists like the Canadian government does, that's before the courts right now. We don't know how that's going to be decided. Whether you whether you think it means like a horrible, awful person who has a deplorable personality and so they can't get laid, or you just think it's a guy who can't get laid. You're being mean no matter what, and you have to own that. There's no, but he made me, but. No. I have called people names because they pissed me off and I didn't care anymore. Was it the nicest thing to do? No. Was I kind of being mean at times? Yes. I am owning that. I am in control of that. I am not claiming that somebody else had mind control powers over me. That was a choice. You know? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes people are triggered by PTSD. I've been there too. Okay? But that's the thing. If you don't have a trauma condition, yes, you are in control. Nobody can make you do anything just by being a schmucktard on the internet, right? Shouldn't have said tard, ableist, sorry. But there are more precise, more effective ways to make it clear that you think someone sucks. Let's use them. Because these particular insults that are driven by sexual proclivities and sexual attractiveness, perceived sexual attractiveness, it's contributing to forces, to sort of this overall cultural soup that we exist in, that's getting people hurt, that are ending up with people having experiences that some people don't get over for their entire lives. And that's true of men and women, and the percentage of transgender people who are victims of this stuff, it's off the charts. So let's just not do this. Let's please stop using thought, slut, whore, incel, dickless, small dick, limp dick, all that stuff. I get it. It's a habit. It flies out of your mouth. Let's not. Okay? Or if you do choose to talk that way, be honest about what you're doing. Be honest what you're contributing to. Because being honest is generally good, right? All right, let's see how YouTube likes this. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.